Well, it's December, the season of holly, mistletoe, Santa Claus, mumming, werewolves, and broomstick-riding babies. Oh, some of those things aren't a part of your holiday festivities? Well, Christmas is celebrated in countries all across the world, and every country has their own traditions and ways to celebrate. And what better way to usher in the holiday season than to discuss some of these traditions with random strangers on the internet? Christmas, the time of year where the outside world turns white and the inside turns green. I mean, you've gotta have something to get you through those long winter months, especially if you live where I do. Oh, God help me. But in all seriousness, most of the plants associated with the season of giving have a long and interesting history. For instance, mistletoe was an incredibly important plant to the Celtic Druids, for whom it was a symbol of the winter solstice. The reason that mistletoe was such a wonder to the ancient Celts is that, unlike most plants which wither and die in winter, mistletoe not only stays green, but even grows berries around late November to early December. Nowadays, this behavior is explained by the fact that mistletoe is actually a parasitic plant that feeds off of trees. When it comes to the question of why do we kiss under mistletoe, my research has turned up multiple origins for this tradition. While some say it's derived from an English party game played in the early 19th century, others say that the tradition is much older and has roots in ancient Norse mythology. Because of this, I can't say for sure where the tradition came from, but if you think that you have the answer, be sure to put it in the comment section down below. Holly also has deep historical roots, as it was often used by Romans during this festival of Saturnalia, which celebrated the passing of the shortest day of the year and the eventual coming of spring. The tradition of using holly to celebrate the season was eventually adopted as part of the celebration of Christmas, and now we even have songs about it. Oh, and it was apparently once believed that holly collected on Christmas Day had the power to keep away witches. So there's that. But we can't talk about Christmas plants without talking about the biggest one of all. Though nowadays, for many of us, it's less of a plant and more of a big heap of molded plastic, but on the plus side, you can always spray on that pine fresh scent. Christmas trees, I mean real actual trees, were originally a lot smaller than they are today, as wealthier homes in Germany typically set up small tabletop trees, often one for each member of the family, that they would then decorate with fruit, nuts, candies, and paper ornaments. Gradually, the tradition of Christmas trees spread across Europe until it made its way to England. Then in 1848, the Illustrated London News featured a picture of the British royal family gathered around a Christmas tree, and this is where the tradition really started to take off, and was then gradually adopted by the rest of the Western world. Saint Nick, the giant elf who is both lively and quick. The version of Santa Claus many of us come to know and love has had many interpretations across the globe. But as many of us know, the character is based on a real historical figure named Saint Nicholas. The real Santa Claus was supposed to have lived during the late 3rd century to the early 4th century in what is now Turkey. After Nicholas died and was granted the sainthood, stories about his life continued to circulate. Once a story involved him giving bags of gold to a poor father who couldn't afford to pay his daughter's dowry. Stories like these help to solidify the character as a kind of giving and generous person, characteristics that were eventually incorporated into Clement Clarke Moore's poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, or as it's better known today, The Night Before Christmas. This poem, which was written in 1823 as a Christmas present for Moore's children, established many of Santa's more iconic characteristics, like the fact that he delivered presents on Christmas Eve rather than on St. Nicholas's Eve, and that he rode on a sleigh pulled by reindeer. However, as iconic as Moore Santa has become in the West, he's still just one interpretation, and depending on the country, the jolly elf that we all know and love looks quite different. In many European countries, a visit from Santa Claus conjures up feelings of dread rather than excitement. Sinterklaas, for example, is a Santa Claus-like figure who rides out in mid-November to give presents and spread terror. While good children have nothing to fear, those that misbehave will receive more than a lump of coal in their stocking. As this version of Santa Claus is accompanied by a figure named Black Peter or Zwart Piet, who scoops up bad children and carries them off to Spain. Yeah, apparently in the Netherlands during the 16th century, which was a primarily Protestant country, a trip to hot and humid Catholic Spain was akin to a trip to purgatory. Unlike today, where it's just an awesome free vacation. Seriously, what do I have to do to get a free trip to Spain? I've got like 4 more months of winter here. And if Black Peter isn't strange enough for you, in Austria, the Czech Republic, and parts of Germany, St. Nicholas is accompanied on his rounds by yet another strange creature, known to most of us as Krampus.
What kind of goat walks on its hind legs?
His name is Krampus.
A goat-like creature with a human face and an incredibly long tongue that walks upright, Krampus, or Kurt as he's also known, is believed to roam around on St. Nicholas's Eve or Angels and Demons Night, looking for children to gather up in his basket and bring back down to hell. Fortunately for the children, the dastardly Krampus is generally stopped by St. Nicholas and an accompanying angel, who quickly dispel the demon before handing out presents. This is a Christmas tradition that, believe it or not, is still celebrated in parts of Newfoundland today. Mumming, or bell-snickling as it's also called, is an ancient European custom believed to have started sometime during the Middle Ages, but which may also have roots in the Roman festival of Saturnalia. During the 12 days of Christmas, mummers, as they are often called, dress up in costume and go walking about the neighborhood, going door to door and performing small skits, or just providing entertainment for the residents of the home. Generally, in return for the performance, the mummers will then be given presents or signs of gratitude, like food or a hot beverage, before moving on to the next house. So kind of like trick-or-treating, but at Christmas time, and with more expected of the participants than just dressing up and expecting candy. While I kind of love the tradition, I mean that there's just something so joyous and festive about it, I understand why it died out in most parts of Canada. Because if it didn't sink in the last 2 times I mentioned it, this country is cold. Honestly, it's hard enough to convince kids to go out trick-or-treating during October, and come December, most of us are in a state of partial hibernation, only going outside when we really have to. Oh, and also apparently mummers in the past have gotten kind of out of hand, causing property damage and going on drunken tirades. Community togetherness, am I right? But all problems aside, I still think that this is a fun idea on paper, and much on the same level as caroling. Just don't mix it with alcohol. In fact, don't mix caroling with alcohol either. The character known as Frau Holle reportedly began life as Ludana, an ancient Germanic earth and fertility goddess. However, as time progressed and Christianity began to take hold, Ludana was assigned a new role and name. Frau Holle, as she is now known, was assigned the job of collecting and looking after the souls of unbaptized babies. During Christmas time, it was said that her and her band of infants, mounted on flying broomsticks, would fly over the fields, blessing them and making them more bountiful for the next year's harvest. Just don't try to view this event firsthand, because apparently you will be struck blind. Though, honestly, seeing a collection of broomstick-riding babies has to be one of the funniest and cutest things ever. While Frau Holle is no longer celebrated at Christmas time, she hasn't been erased from the German consciousness entirely, as there is still a popular Grimm fairy tale that exists which bears her name. While the bulk of us celebrate Christmas on December 25th, assuming that you celebrate Christmas at all, that is, for many members of the Ukrainian community, the day to celebrate falls on January 7th. This disparity in dates is due to the fact that the Ukrainian Orthodox Church still uses the Julian calendar to mark its celebrations, rather than the more widely used Gregorian calendar. While Ukrainian Christmas is still celebrated, in recent years it seems to be losing its relevance, as more and more families are making the switch towards celebrating mainstream Christmas. I mean, I'm a person of Ukrainian descent, and my family has always celebrated Christmas on the 25th. In fact, growing up, I only barely knew that Ukrainian Christmas even existed. And while I know that the Ukrainian Christmas celebration is mostly religious, and that people who choose not to celebrate it may not prescribe to the Ukrainian Orthodox religion, I still think that this celebration is interesting and deserves to be discussed. For many devout Ukrainians, Christmas begins with the observance of Prehid, or Advent, where they abstain from eating meat, dairy, or eggs until Christmas Eve. Then, on Christmas Eve, or January 6th, they sit down with family and friends to eat a feast composed of 12 meatless dishes, each one meant to represent one of Jesus' 12 apostles. Christmas Day, January 7th, is generally a more solemn affair, which starts with early service on Christmas morning, followed by feasting, caroling, and visiting, which then continues for 2 more days. Ukrainian Epiphany, which is celebrated on January 19th, marks the end of the Ukrainian Christmas season. This is also the day that Ukrainian children generally open their presents. Epiphany, also known as the Feast of the River Jordan, marks the day of Jesus' baptism and is celebrated in the Ukrainian community through the enactment of a traditional water blessing ceremony. During the ceremony, a priest blesses a supply of water, which people then collect in jars and take home so it can be used to help repel evil in the new year. And you thought that this obsession with turning Christmas into Halloween was a relatively new phenomenon. Well, joke's on you, because people have been doing this forever. Case in point, in many European countries, werewolves, or people dressed in wolf costumes, have long been a part of the Christmas festivities. While it's difficult to say exactly where this tradition came from, one possible source is the Roman festival of Lupercalia, which is held in celebration of the she-wolf that nursed the infant founders of Rome, Romulus and Remus, when they were abandoned in the wilderness. This theory goes that as the Roman world became more widespread, elements of Lupercalia, which traditionally took place on February 15th, were inducted into the celebration of Yule. Possibly because of this, Christmas celebrations in places throughout Europe, like Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, and Greece, used to include wolves as part of their festivities. At some time during the Christmas season, these wolves, generally young men in costumes, would start running around in the streets, scaring passers-by and generally causing a ruckus, though they tended to disappear once the holiday season was over. The last Christmas creature, or creatures, that I want to talk about are probably going to sound vaguely familiar to anyone who's seen the Netflix series Hilda. Yes, I'm talking about those not-so-lovable house spirits, the Nissa, Tomten, and Tontu. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the Nissa, Tomten, and Tontu are all household spirits, or sprites, depending on who you're talking to, that live in your house and help out with chores and performing errands. A little bit like those house elves in Harry Potter, though traditionally these creatures are described as looking a lot more like little tiny old men with white beards. Over the years, these tiny helpful creatures in many places have become associated with the celebration of Christmas. In addition to the ritual of feeding the Nissa and Tomten on Christmas Eve, the general food of choice being a bowl of porridge with a big pat of butter in the middle, Christmas markets in places throughout Europe, like Denmark, Norway, and Switzerland, often sell stuffed or wooden house spirits that people can buy and take home. A trend I'm sure is only going to grow in popularity. Well, I hope you enjoyed this very strange collection of Christmas facts. I originally planned on doing a video about the origins of Christmas traditions in the West, but my research ended up going in a different direction. As always, if you like this video, be sure to tell me in the comment section down below, and while you're there, be sure to leave any ideas for videos that you want to see in the future.